October 31, 1998. In the quiet town of Whispering Pines, Halloween night was usually a celebration of laughter, candy, and costumes. The streets would fill with children dressed as ghosts, superheroes, and witches, while the porches of houses glowed with carved pumpkins and flickering candles. It was a place where families felt safe, a town where everyone knew each other, or so they thought. But that Halloween was different. It's a night that still haunts the memories of those who lived there. It's the night when Megan Rivers vanished without a trace. She was 19, a high school senior with dreams of leaving for college the following year. To her friends, she was adventurous, kind-hearted, always the life of the party. But no one could have imagined that the fun of that Halloween would turn into a nightmare. It was around 11:30 p.m. when Megan's best friend, Emily Parker, received a voicemail. It was a message that, even today, sends chills down the spine of anyone who hears it. Megan's voice, usually so full of life, was different, shaken, urgent, filled with a fear that words can barely describe. Authorities later analyzed the recording, and to this day, it remains the last known communication from Megan. Let's take a listen to her words. But be warned, what you're about to hear may make you question the safety of your own home. The recording begins.
Hey, it's me. I don't know how much time I have. Something's wrong, really wrong. There's this guy, he's been following us all night. At first, I thought it was just some Halloween prank, but it's not. He knows where we live. I can't shake the feeling he's watching, even now. I'm locking the doors, but I don't think it's enough. If you get this, please, send help. And whatever you do, don't open the door if you hear knocking.
The recording ends. That was the last anyone heard from Megan Rivers. By the time the police arrived at her home, the front door was locked from the inside, the lights were off, and there was no sign of forced entry. It was as if she had simply vanished into thin air. The authorities searched the surrounding woods, questioned her friends and neighbors, and analyzed every frame of the security footage they could find. But no one saw her leave the house that night. Emily, who had been out of town when she received the voicemail, immediately called the police upon hearing the message. By the time she arrived at Megan's home, it was already surrounded by police tape. Officers combed through every room, but nothing seemed out of place except for one chilling detail, a smear of red paint, or at least what they hoped was paint, on the outside of the front door. It looked like someone had dragged their hand across it, leaving streaks that pointed to the handle. Whispering Pines was in shock. News of Megan's disappearance spread quickly, and the town, which had always felt like a safe haven, was now filled with whispers and suspicion. Some neighbors claimed to have seen a man dressed in a clown costume lurking in the shadows that night. Others dismissed it, saying it was just another Halloween trick. After all, costumes were everywhere, it could have been anyone. But the more the authorities dug into the case, the stranger it became. Security cameras from neighboring houses showed Megan and her friends walking home, laughing and enjoying the night until, at some point, a man in a clown suit appears in the distance. He's barely visible at first, a figure among many. But as the footage progresses, he remains in the frame, always keeping a distance but never too far. When Megan is seen running toward her home, he disappears from the footage. Moments later, the lights in her house flicker off. The camera facing her front porch, the one that should have captured her entering the house, was mysteriously disabled. Authorities ruled it a technical malfunction, but the timing was too perfect, too precise. And when they tried to access footage from the rest of the neighborhood for further clues, they found that other cameras had been tampered with as well. As the investigation continued, Whispering Pines residents began to report strange occurrences. Some claimed to hear soft knocking on their doors late at night, followed by a faint voice whispering, "Please, let me in." Others swore they saw a shadowy figure standing outside their windows, watching but never moving. But when they called the police, no one was ever found. Despite the chilling reports, the police insisted there was no evidence of foul play beyond Megan's disappearance. They believed it was a runaway case or perhaps a crime committed by someone she knew, someone who had managed to cover their tracks. But those who knew Megan, and the residents who felt the unease creeping through the town, weren't so sure. They believed something darker was at play. Over the years, Megan's case has become a local legend, a story parents tell their children to keep them close on Halloween night. They say that if you walk past Megan's house at midnight, you might hear her voice echoing through the wind, calling for help. Some even claim to have seen the shadow of a man standing on her porch, his hand resting on the door as if waiting for someone to open it. And then there are the ones who say that, on the anniversary of her disappearance, you should never open your door if you hear knocking. For it might not be a trick-or-treater, but something much worse. What happened to Megan Rivers that night? Was it the work of a disturbed individual playing a cruel Halloween prank that went too far? Or is there a more sinister force lurking in the quiet corners of Whispering Pines? Authorities never found her, and the case remains unsolved. But one thing is certain, Megan's words still linger, a haunting reminder that even the safest places can hide the darkest secrets. So, as Halloween approaches, remember her words, don't open the door if you hear knocking. And ask yourself, would you have the courage to follow her warning? If you're as fascinated by the unsolved mysteries of Whispering Pines as we are, make sure you subscribe to our channel for more stories just like this. We uncover the dark secrets, the hidden truths, and the mysteries that refuse to stay buried. Who knows? You might even help solve one. And remember, if you hear knocking this Halloween, don't open the door.